Okay, let's see if I can get this finished, right? Because I feel like I'm under attack. Because I'm trying to get this done. Kind of still just waking up. So, and third video because I don't know what's going on, but every time the tablet just decides it's going to shut itself off. Last time, before getting back on now, it was like totally freaked out, wouldn't let me go into any settings, had to like turn it on and off several times. So let's see if we can get the rest of this done. Okay, so inflammatory blood disease, because you can have inflammation in your different organs. For example, most urinary tract infections, they're not an infection usually, even if there's bleeding, usually it's inflammatory, it's inflammation. There's something going on with the tubing. Bronchitis, inflammation, inflammatory. Yeah, and if these tubes to these locations are tight or, closing up, it can lead to an infection because the processes need to move out, right? Things need to come up and out, breathing, mucus, urine. But, I'm always amazed that like the first part of the protocol from doctors is always antibiotics when you don't know that that's actually needed. So I'm going to, with the thrombosis, right, the blood clotting and stuff like that, we're going to call it blood inflammatory disease, because there's lots of inflammatory disease in different systems and parts of the body, which if you have those and you don't know that you have those, and then you're compounding it with drinking microwaved water and too much meat and dairy, then, you're going to have a whole system inflammatory disease, blood inflammatory disease. So, and it's really hard once you get blood inflammatory, and you get it also as you age, right? It's part of the aging process. Why people age so fast is because they can't slow down their inflammatory process, right? Okay. So here we go. So just some ideas on how to knock down inflammation in the body. Don't eat, a lot of meat and cheese. Maybe leave it up to one piece of meat, like no dairy at all. Maybe one piece of meat like the size of your palm a day. And then, at least 5 to 6 vegetables and a minimum of 1 fruit a day. Nuts, grains, seeds, that kind of stuff. Then watch where your water's coming from. Another big thing that is going to cause a lot of problems has to do with, hold on one second. Is your thyroid. Most people's thyroids are not working. I mean, more and more I see people's thyroids removed, Hashimoto's disease. It goes on and on and on and on. And so medical system decides that, best course of action, just take that sucker out. Bad move, super bad move. Makes people crazy. You have no thyroid, your thyroid isn't working right, it makes you crazy, right? You can have a lot of serious hallucinating, mental disorders because you have thyroid issues or no thyroid. So you want to take really good iodine. This is my favorite iodine. And in some cases, to kill viruses or viral agents or, bacteria and stuff like that, you can take up to 60 drops a day, right? Mostly, you take like 1 drop a day. My dog gets it too. Helps with nuclear radiation and microwave radiation. I mean, it's not going to cure you from large exposures of either, but it does help your thyroid to get back on track. And yeah, so it's liquid iodine forte by Biotics. Best stuff ever. And because most people's thyroid's not working, so your thyroid also helps to filter out things that don't belong in your blood. For example, parasites like Lyme disease, bacteria, molds, fungus, viral agents, right? But if your thyroid's not working, it's not going to do any of that work. And most of the time, people are so lacking in iodine. You have to realize, like, Asian people eat about, like 3,000 milligrams of iodine in their diet a day. And we maybe get like 35. So we wonder why we age so much more rapidly than Asian people. They look beautiful even at an older. I mean, there's a lot of things. They have a lot of calcium. They have a lot of iodine, naturally occurring biological nutrients, which makes a difference. So you might want some iodine. The other thing too that I'd like to put with iodine is sulfur or organic MSM, or sulfur, doesn't matter. I mean, because that's what it is, it's sulfur. Organic derivative. We don't get a lot of that in our diet either, and it actually can disinfect our blood and areas of our body and our tissues, which means, like, arthritis is a virus. So it can actually help to go in there and rebuild cartilage in damaged areas, because it's actually disinfecting the viruses like arthritis out of the joints. May not actually turn the bone back to what the bone needs to look like, but it can really help. So sulfur is something really important if you want to keep your body mold, fungus, bacterial free and viral free. So sulfur is really important part of the process of the body. Usually I'll have people do iodine and sulfur together. And then there's other protocols too that I add for Lyme disease and things like that have some parasitic issues. So one of my ultimate favorites is red clover for blood clots and blood inflammatory disease. For me, it had worked wonders after my brain cancer. I had some searing, like, numbing in my fingers, mostly in the fingertips and my toes, and had quite a bit of I can't think. My brain is like, because it's the morning. I'll think of the word. Anyway, so I started doing a lot of research, 20 years ago, and came across red clover. And my favorite way is to make it as a tea. So you buy the bulk red clover, like 3 tablespoons heaping in, 1 cup, let's just say, 6 ounces of water. And I like to boil just a whole thing of water in steel, not aluminum, either steel or glass. And then I like to put it in a glass bowl, pretty large, because I'm going to make, put it in mason jars. And I like to add a little black tea in there, maybe a little honey, and then my red clover. And I put all that like in a bowl, and I boil the water. I put it in there, I let it steep. And then I let it steep for about 4 hours. And once it's cooled, then I'll filter all the parts out, squeeze them really good, and then put it all in mason jars and stick it in the refrigerator. It lasts for about 3 days. You don't want any herbal products. Are not going to be really beneficial after 3 days. But you can do 3 jars of tea. And so it's in the summertime, it's great because it's already cold. You just grab it out of the fridge and take it with you to work or wherever you're going to go and get a drink, and there you go. And you can do red clover. You could put lots of different things in it that can help. But red clover really was unbelievable with getting rid of the numbing. And I believe that I had a lot of blood clots in the tips of my fingers and toes, and had really bad inflammatory, blood disease because of the brain cancer. It was tough to fight. Cured it myself. Okay, so red clover is astounding and awesome. You could even drink it hot every morning. You could add it with a little black tea or green tea, little sweetener, natural sweetener, if you want, a little honey. It's all good. All right, so let's also talk about two other things that I just love that are just dynamite. Well, number one, you really need to take more essential fatty acids in your diet, because your brain has a lot to do with what's going on in your system. And most people have their brain cut off from their body. Also, you want to monitor your amount of Wi-Fi. And if you have any kind of 5G in your house or your neighborhood, you really need to call them and actually have it unwired and get rid of it, because 5G will kill you, because it destroys cells, oxidates cells, which is inflammatory blood disease, um, and can stop your heart and, like all kinds of stuff. So you don't want to carry your phone around. If you do carry your phone around, you want it turned off. You got to break your addiction to Wi-Fi. Okay, so some really important things are that the brain, because of, you know, the spine not being straight, and joints not being stacked in the body, and scar tissue and all kinds of different issues, the brain can't really talk to the body. So more and more, our brain has a hard time trying to get to those parts of the body that actually solve a lot of the issues, regenerate. And after a while, the brain will just give up. If the brain isn't working well, the chemtrails and microwave radiation and bad diet and structural collapse and, so many different things cause the brain not to communicate with the body anymore. One is inflammation. The brain gets really, really inflamed. Chemtrails, heavy metals, bad diet. The brain really likes amino acids and fats, right? That's what makes it happy. And we just don't eat enough essential fatty acids in our diet. We don't give our animals enough essential fatty acids. Every time I go out and look at horses, and people want to, look at that aren't range or pastured, where they can't eat these other plants that have, like purslane has like the highest amount of 3, 6, and 9 essential fatty acid there is, and it grows in fields, so horses and animals would eat it. But when they're given like hay, dry hay, or they're in the desert, they just have no essential fatty acids, and usually that's like the main problem of what's going on, and that will cause structural misalignments as well. So anyway, so usually essential fatty acids, I always, is like the first protocol for people to get their horses on. So mammals, we just need a lot of essential fatty acids, and we just don't get them in our diet. And meat is really not the same, actually. So that's why coconut oil, unrefined, works so good with people with memory loss, is because the body needs that much fat. The brain needs that much fat. It needs amino acids. If you were to eat a heaping teaspoon of bee pollen a day, and say a quarter cup of coconut oil, or make sure that you have lots of beautiful oils, raw hand pressed kind of oils, unrefined oils on everything that you eat, you should be in pretty good condition. But the chemtrails and heavy metals exposure and just a lot of the things that we're exposed to also cause the brain to get inflamed, and which puts pressure in the cranium and on the brain, and the brain can't actually do its job. So increase your essential fatty acids in a huge way. Hemp seed oil, love that. Take that. My dog gets that. Tons of coconut oil during the course of the day, at least a quarter cup. And one of my ultimate favorites is omega-7. And all you need is one. Just take it as directed. Otherwise, you'll get a pressure headache because you can feel it. And you want cold pressed omega-7. And it's pretty expensive, but it is worth its weight in gold for inflammation of the brain, so that the brain can actually help the body heal. So very important, super important nutrient. And then also another favorite of mine is CoQ10. So that actually helps with blood inflammatory disease, and it helps all the organs, that are dealing with a lot of blood flow, which are like lungs and heart and all of these, vital organs that you want to keep rolling. So CoQ10, part of, cancer remedies too, to cure cancer. usually have large amounts of CoQ10 in them, right? Because you've got to combat the inflammatory disease, right, in order to get all of the passage systems, working really well and unthickened. So, yeah, so it's good stuff. And also, last but not least, is a product called DMG. A lot of people don't know about it. It was made by Russians to help with mental and physical activity. It's considered B15. So that means that it's bacterial created, and it actually oxygenates the cells and the body, and it's amazing. And you don't want to, if you have high inflammatory disease, or you're exhausted, you're tired, your body is just not running right, you have a lot of acid reflux, you probably are not doing good at all. I would take like a 500, chewable tablet milligram in the morning, and then another one, before 1 o'clock. I wouldn't take anything after 1 because you won't sleep. And don't take the iodine after 1 o'clock either. Otherwise, you won't sleep. But those are some just simple things that you can get in your nutrition, and start taking care of yourself. And then you won't get, any of the viruses or the viral agents. Vitamin C too is pretty good, but you have to take the vitamin C before you have problems. And inflammatory disease, unfortunately, is your organs kind of breaking down and liquefying. So, vitamin C is really good for that, because it really helps connective tissue. A lot of people don't realize that if you have bleeding gums and they are telling you that you have, gum disease, that's not true. It means you have early onset scurvy, which is a serious nutritional deficiency, which means that basically all of your tissues, your connective tissues, which hold your heart in place, keep your, arm attached, keep your eyes in the socket, your teeth in your gums, are disintegrating. So you want to take a large amount of really good grades of, vitamin C, natural, biological as possible. Okay, that's it. That's the third one. Hopefully it's been informative. If anybody out there is interested in having an appointment, I do charge assessment, pretty first time visit online. All my visits are online first. And anyway, that's it. I'll talk to you later. Thanks so much. You can go to my website, COE-LLC. There's all kinds of stuff there. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.